Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the March 3rd Board of Assessors meeting for Stockbridge. We'll start out with Mike.
Randy, you can hear us, right?
Yes, very well.
Okay,
Thank you.
Oh, yes, I'll just say that Doug and I are here at the town offices. Brandy is in her office in Otis, I assume.
Yep.
And so go ahead, Mike.
Okay, so number one, you have to approve the previous minutes from the last meeting.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
All
Second.
those in Brandy seconded. All those in favor, Gary, aye.
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 Brandy says aye.
Okay, number two, board to sign fiscal 25 real estate abatement certificate. This is for the the last abatement that you reviewed in executive session. Brandy, did you want to stop in or did you okay?
Yeah, I'll touch base with you later and see when you want to get them out, if I have time to stop in or if you want to use the stamp.
Okay. And number two, Tammy got ready the new batch of motor vehicle abatement applications. That would be signed. Do you want me to just continue while you're standing? Okay.
Yeah.
Number four, in our previous meeting, I had mentioned to the board that the Moffitt family had started the procedures for the first right of refusal on land, chapter 61 forest managed land on Interlake and Crossroad. Those letters went out to the planning board, the board of assessors, and the select board to start the process of first right of refusal. And our part in doing this is calculating the 5-year rollback tax for the Moffitt Family Nominee Trust, of which I did, and then our treasurer tax collector, Erica Olson, went and did the interest up until March 31st, because I believe the purchase and sale on that property was the sale of that property was scheduled for mid to late March. So we've done our part. I have an amount for Miles Moffitt, who is handling this for his family. I do have that rollback amount. Mike Canales had asked for that amount last week. And I had asked him if the Board of Selectmen had put this, or they're planning on putting it on their agenda for review. And I have also heard from at least one member of the planning board as to the specifics of the first right of refusal and what they have to do. And again, I can't really, there isn't really anything that the planning board can do other than discuss this with the select board. If there's any intent on purchasing that land or ideas of that, for that land, the Board of Assessors really doesn't have anything to do with that. Our responsibility is handling the administrative side of it with the first right of refusal. And as soon as that letter was sent out, it did, I believe, according to town council, started the 120-day period in which the select board has to make that decision for the first right of refusal, and if they are going to hire a private or hire someone to handle the appraisal. It can't come from the town. It can't come from the Board of Assessors. It has to be independent of the town hall. So I did send all that information to Mike, and again, it's now up to the select board to put this on the agenda for review. Gary, I wasn't sure if anything on the planning board was happening on this. There really isn't much that can be done.
I think the only thing the planning board could do is just have a recommendation one way or the other.
Okay.
you know, their thoughts on it, but I mean, the selectmen control the money, you know what I mean? So
Right.
they're the buck stops there, I guess, you know?
Okay, so I feel like we've, actually Erica came up with this great little spreadsheet that if for some reason the sale of this property goes further because the select board decides that they want to look into this, we can change the payoff date to anything and it will recalculate the interest.
Cool.
So I'm gonna actually send this to Mr. Moffett this week, just so he'll have it as well, and he can use the spreadsheet to calculate his own interest as well. But at least we have it in play. We know the amount. It's been a long time since we've done a rollback tax. So the actual billing of this, if the town decides they don't want anything to do with this land. And so I'm sure we'll figure it out. But at this point, we have it calculated. The ball is rolling on this process. So I think we're in a
Did Mike give you like a
An
feeling?
idea?
Yeah, as to what the select board was gonna do?
no, not yet.
Interesting.
So if I hear anything else about what's happening with this, but I do believe it has to be put on and reviewed in an open session with the select board. So I would imagine with the clock ticking now on the 120 days that, it should be scheduled soon. So that's number 4. Number 5, last year I mentioned we were in a calendar year for the equalized valuations to be determined by the DOR. And we just briefly talked about, what it is and what it does, but they have finalized those numbers. And I have the printout. I went on, first of all, I'll just give a little quick read on what the EQV is for. EQVs are used as a basis of comparison among the 351 municipalities within a Commonwealth for certain state and local purposes. Specifically, EQV is used in the allocation of aid to public libraries, in the calculation of Chapter 70 funding, and in the reimbursement rate of school construction projects. Certain cherry sheet charges also use EQV. County tax, there's mention about things for Boston, which has nothing to do with here. EQV is used in calculating a community's debt limit. So you have to go on to Gateway, the LA-19 form, and print out what those final numbers are. So what I did is that number came in at 1,310,803,700. And in comparison, because they use our data, they use our sales. Once we enter our sales for any particular year in which we're getting certified, whether it's an interim year or a 5-year certification, they can see all those sales that are approved on Gateway. They use those. We used to have to send all of our LA3 reports to them, but now that we're on Gateway, nothing's done by paper. So as a comparison with our LA4, our total, now this is for fiscal year 25, it's the last number that we have, is 1,352,842,058. So it's a difference of 42 million, which isn't bad. I mean, in the long run. So I don't know exactly how they pick apart these numbers to come up with the funding items that I mentioned. But all I know is that I'm just reporting to you guys so you know that they're finalized. And next year, what we should do is, and what I'll do is as soon as, well, actually, it won't be until, it'll be 20, it won't be until calendar year 26, but I don't think they'll have it ready until 27 for the next round of EQV. So whenever I see anything that comes through for EQV, if you guys want to review it at the time, instead of me just stating what's at the very end, we can do that as well. Again, a lot of the times you can question it, and there are Zoom meetings that are set up. And we may want to just tune in to see what the specifics are for how this gets funded and distributed throughout the 351 communities. Number 6, I wanted to remind the general public that the exemption applications, the statutory exemption applications, which would include blind exemptions, veterans exemptions, elderly exemptions, and widow and widowers exemptions are coming due April 1st. That is the final cutoff and deadline because it is a state deadline, and we're starting to get ready the bills that will be going out for the second half. Any questions? Or, I mean, we actually do have quite a few. Did you guys want us to send out a letter? Typically, we make phone calls. I just in general I mean, some of these are substantial. I'm a little surprised we haven't gotten them back, but there's a lot going on out in the world.
So were they mailed? The people who
Yes,
filed last
mailed.
year were mailed a copy this
Yeah,
year.
we typically get a few that come in really late, but again, time is flying.
Mhm.
And, you know, even if they are postmarked or dated April 1, you guys can still review and approve them after the fact, but April 1 is the deadline. And because we're going into the second half billing, there won't be enough time to have that taken off of the second half. So what will end up happening is there'll be a refund check sent out for any of the ones that we receive. I know you guys are gonna be reviewing the aid for the elderly,
Mhm.
and that's something separate. Is it too late to file for that one? Is it too late to file for the aid for the elderly?
Yes, because
It
we're
is.
meeting today.
Okay, all right. So what's left would be the real estate exemptions. This does not include abatements on real estate valuation. That is passed. It's strictly real estate exemptions. If anyone has any questions, if you've never applied before and you think you would qualify, please give our office a call and we can step you through the process, because again, we still have 4 weeks, but we want to get those in as soon as possible.
So Mike, going back to your question, if you should call, I think we should, whatever we do, we should be consistent with what we did last
Yeah.
year.
We
So-
will.
so-
I mean, like I said, I'm a little shocked at some of them, but again, some situations happen and people just forget, and, you know, we'll remind everybody. It's kind of too late to send out a letter. I mean, by the time people get it, it's gonna be too late. So we'll make phone calls.
Yeah,
But I did want to stress, and I will say it again at our next meeting, because there'll still be time, but I wanted to get it out there.
maybe
early
put it
enough.
on the website.
Yeah, I mean, the forms are there, but well, again, we're not talking, most of them have come in. It's just, I'm surprised there's a few that are early birds that haven't gotten them in.
So again, you're only calling people that previously participated in this last year. You can't call the entire,
No,
tax base.
no, that's why I wanted to put it on our agenda, so people are still aware that you still have a month.
Mhm.
If you think you might qualify. I mean, we found one this morning, you know, from going through some early aid for the elderly reviews, like this person might qualify. So Tammy's gonna give them a call, because as far as income and assets, it looks like this particular married couple would get, you know, if you qualify under the highest one, it's $1,000 off of your taxes.
Hmm.
I just think it's important to get it out there, so people know. And that actually brings us into a new, there is actually a couple new, clauses that the state has approved. And Brandy, I'm not sure if you're aware of these, you probably are, the HEROES Act. We're gonna talk about this more at our county, our spring meeting for the Berkshire County Assessors Association. But I had talked to Mike about, you know, what is the cutoff for having something put on the town meeting warrant? Because these two new, they pertain to veterans, only veterans. And what it would do is, one, we're already doing, which is taking the base amounts of the veterans. Let's say if you get the lowest, which is, you know, at this point it's 414, and the highest, which is 1,000. We're already adjusting those by the cost of living adjustment every year. So that's what one of these is for. But there's another one, it's clause 22I and clause 22J of the general laws. 22J would be an add-on to what all the exemptions we have now. which we've got 22A, we've got 22E. It depends on the disability that you have and the amount that you get. That would actually double the amount. So if you're getting 414, it would automatically double that every year. If you're getting the 1,000 for the highest amount, it would double that
Oh.
every year. Are you guys okay with putting this through as a town, on the town warrant to have it approved?
Could you just talk about how the state reimburses the town and whose responsibility would be for the,
It doesn't say on here, I'd have to dig a little further to see how much, we do get reimbursements on these, and we don't have so many that it's taking us out of not getting a reimbursement for every one of them.
Mhm.
I mean, we're talking maybe 10 exemptions at best. The only time we're gonna get new ones is if we're in an active war and a member has a 10% or more disability. So this would apply to those that still have to prove
Right.
that they have a 10% disability or more through.
Or
a
what
document.
if somebody moved into town that had,
and-
They would, yeah, they
I-
would have, and again, it would be presenting your documents to us with the
Sure.
application.
Yeah.
This is, again, when we enacted the extension for this, the clauses 17 and 41 to adjust by the cost of living, this applied already. And not a lot of towns did that. So this is giving those towns that didn't do that, in addition to, you don't have to adopt both. It's either, either or both. We've already got one. I'm more concerned about the doubling of one. I think that would be something we probably should do.
and it
Look
doesn't,
into.
so it doubles, so say for 1 year goes from 1,000, next year goes to 2,000, and it stays at 2,000. It doesn't
Yes.
go to 2,000 to 4,000 to.
No, no, no. It took them long enough for
Compounding
something
interest.
like this.
Yeah.
No, and
oh, Brandy's got a question.
Brady, go ahead.
I just was gonna say, we have about 2 months before we'll set the warrant. Could you send around the language on the HEROES Act and we could look at it?
Yeah, I have the bulletin that came through, and we actually got a letter from this veteran, Thomas Beasley, who had called me, and he was calling all of the assessors' offices.
He's the veterans rep,
Yeah.
for this area.
Yeah, so we have a copy of that letter that I can, email to you guys.
Okay.
I would imagine that because this is a state general law, that it pertains to the reimbursement rules as well. I don't think this would be one of those ones that, and I would have to find out where the town would have to pick up the rest of that reimbursement, because this is coming from the DOR themselves. But again, it's possible. I would just have to find out a little bit more about
I
it.
think I'd like to
We
know,
need to talk about it at our meeting in the spring.
yeah, I'd like to know a little more details about who pays what, just
Right.
so that we can let everybody know in case somebody has an objection that we're giving away taxpayer money. It might be state taxpayer money,
Exactly.
not local.
Yep. So I'll find that out and I'll send this around. It does have a sample acceptance vote on here as well. And I know that Tammy Blackwell was going to talk about this a little bit at our meeting before we figure out exactly what we're putting on the agenda for the spring meeting, because I think they're gonna be adopting it, but I'll get a little bit more info on that. Okay, the next one, I just wanted to give you guys an update on I had talked to Gary about putting this issue of the Board of Assessors stipend. It came to, there was a decision made a few weeks ago at the, I think I didn't watch the meeting, but I think Gary did, where the select board decided to give, I believe it's every elected member, a stipend that hadn't previously received a stipend, and to reduce the Board of Assessors stipend down to 500, which is, quite a bit of a drop for what you guys have been getting. And I will say I was a bit outraged and upset about that, because I didn't think there was enough knowledge, and it was hasty as to what the board does, the responsibilities of the board, and the fact that no other communities were contacted as to what they pay their Board of Assessors, their elected boards, or even their appointed board members, because you still need a Board of Assessors. And there was no contact with you guys at all about this before that decision was made. So I mentioned, and I talked to Gary Baring, being our chair, to if we should put this on the agenda. And Gary had said, if I had known if this was a final, deal, if this was done. So on Friday of last week, I took the opportunity when Chucky Cardillo came into our office to just visit, and we were talking about other things, to mention how unfair I thought this was when there was no review of any kind done. This was just a decision that was made without the board's interaction at all. And what I was told is this isn't done. It hasn't been completely decided.
Right, I didn't think so either.
And what we can do and what I will do on the request that Chucky made is to write down the responsibilities of the Board of Assessors in this community and how involved you guys are in, as far as you getting educated. I mean, assessors are different as far as other board members, where you do have to be state certified in order to classify property, in order to sign the documents for the recap and the valuations during the revals. So there's a whole slew of things that are involved that other committees, other boards, whether volunteer or appointed, do not do. And so what we're going to work on, and I'm going to do it this week, is to come up with that basic job description of what is involved with the board and submit it, and Mike will review it, and then we'll submit it to the select board.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, I will say I was a little disappointed the way it happened.
Mhm.
I mean, it came from one of the members, and I just don't know if it happened to be retaliatory. I mean, we haven't accepted the residential exemption. This party was very vocal about it, and I don't know if this is national politics coming to play locally, but there's a lot of defund and replace, and this was a little heavy-handed without professional
Very.
discussion, and it's just a little disappointing. So
I
I think
agree.
I absolutely agree too. Mhm.
Yeah. No, I would echo what Brandy and Doug said, that and I wrote Patrick a personal note, and he and I had a couple of back and forths. And I guess I would just say that I too am disappointed, because that's not how we do things in this town, or at least it's not how we used to
Nope.
do things in this town. And it would have been nice to have a heads up so that we could have at least had an opportunity to at least have one of us or all of us there, so that we could have given them our point of view on it.
Absolutely.
And that's not to say that we're saying that we're, I guess, any better than anybody else's committee. It's just that we are different, and there's a distinction, and then you can get into the whole discussion about stipends and all that. I believe Patrick's take on it at this point is that he's trying to lessen the impact of the insurance, because it's going up dramatically. But again, some conversation, I think, could have eliminated all this. The unknown is the worst piece of it, I guess. And also just feeling, I don't know if I want to say the word disrespected, but certainly
I think it's fair.
not appreciated, or at least being ignored in something that is, I don't think there's any one of us that wouldn't still do our jobs or want to do our jobs, but it's it's just one of those things that that seems to be dropping by the wayside nowadays, which is, common courtesy, I
Yeah.
guess, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I'll say, I think our board and our office in general is a very professional board and office. And I think a lot of the people that come in front of the assessors would say positive things, even though we might not always agree on their abatements. But I think in general, or people that watch our meetings on a regular basis, I think would be supportive of us. So I appreciate that the selectmen are taking a second look at this, because we do want to continue to represent the town in a professional and equitable manner that with the distribution of our taxes.
Yeah, and the other thing that I did mention is that, our stipend has been frozen for years. We used to get an incremental increase, along with whatever the raise was for all the town employees. And, we haven't gotten that for a long time, so.
And I will say that, doing this as long as I've done it, it'd be 30 years here in July. I mean, the utmost, level of professionalism with this board. I used to be in North Adams and I was the board there. And, each town handles their boards differently, but the board of assessors is a vital piece of the puzzle whether you have someone that's doing the work full-time like I do. I mean, as involved as you guys are, that's rare in a lot of communities to have that. And I wish other communities did have that. But when you're dealing with elected officials versus appointed officials, it's hard right now to get people to want to volunteer and, represent. And everything that's come down from the DOR, the things that are required for these communities to get certified. Yes, I may be doing the work, but the Board of Assessors are the ones that sign everything. The Board of Assessors are the ones that have to be aware of everything that I'm doing, and I wouldn't be doing it without your approval. So there is so much more involved, and I'm not, again, like Gary said, I'm not saying that other committees and other boards aren't as important, but there is a different level of how we represent the town and how I'm represented through you guys as well, and what is required from the Department of Revenue. It is a whole different ballgame when you're dealing with 3 different bureaus that we deal with and trying to get the valuations and the tax rates set.
Well, and I'll just, one more thing, and I just said to Patrick and to Mike, because I did CC him on the letter, is that, we do deal with some pretty sensitive issues.
Mhm.
They have to be kept private, and I think that we do a good job in handling those things.
Yeah.
And, so.
Yeah, one thing too, I'll say, I've noticed a lot of the services are being subcontracted out. It's happening in other towns and in Stockbridge, and things such as, all of our tax payments being shipped to Boston or our accounting services being subcontracted out. I mean, I do think it's important to keep our boards local and keep our representation local. And I think that the town should continue to be careful about subcontracting out all of our services to be done at a different part of the state or a different community. And it's a little disconcerting when I have to write a check out and it has to go somewhere else to be deposited, or the accountant is no longer here in the building. So I just think that the selectmen and Michael just should be considerate of making sure local employees have a good job here at the town offices.
I agree.
Okay.
Anybody on is there nobody on Zoom? Okay, so anybody have anything else from the board while we're in open session? Okay, so, Brandy, are we gonna, have you on the phone later or?
Well, these 2 that we have to go into executive session for, we're done with the abatement reviews. So
Yeah.
these are 2 exemptions that are pretty easy.
So they were
Okay.
previously discussed?
No, but these are 2 exemptions. One is a newbie and the other one is we've had on our system for quite a while. So I don't know if you're okay with,
I'm okay with
one's
you
a
guys.
41D and one's a veterans.
You
No.
guys can review. I'm fine with that.
All right, so with all that said, I would entertain a motion to leave the open session and go into executive session per Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to discuss and review bills number 806 and 1514.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor, Gary, aye.
Hi, Doug.
aye.
Thank you, everyone.